Hello and welcome to the Long Islander podcast. It has been a long time since we last recorded, but we are officially back in our new lives and in our new jobs, except for Justin, who doesn't have one. Anyway, we have a great show for you today featuring a lot of talk about the NBA between the NBA All-Star Draft and the NBA trade deadline that went down this afternoon and the trades that didn't happen. But aside from the large amount of NBA, there is some sports for you baseball fans. Not only is pitchers and catchers starting in the next week or two, we are going to have the Phillies Real Muto trade. But without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Vin and Justin.
All right, I guess I'll start since Justin didn't want to talk.
Go for it.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be back. John's now in Boston, so we have a little bit of that. So we actually have some titles on this show now. So that's always a plus. Hopefully you guys got my text that I just sent because my phone literally just died after that. I think I sent it to Justin or John. I don't know if I sent it in the group or not.
I see a text.
Okay.
I don't understand it, but I see it.
All right, Justin will, so it's all good. So yeah, if do you guys want to give a little bit of background of why we haven't recorded in 3 or so months?
I can take it. So when we last recorded, we're all college students, so finals came up, and then John, for an internship, had to ship off to Boston, and everything's just been nuts. Vin has an internship himself, so now we finally found a way to carve out some time for ourselves, and we're going to start trying to bring this back weekly. So that's the story.
Good story. So unless you guys have anything to say beforehand, well, first, how are you guys doing today? I haven't actually asked you guys that yet, and we've been talking for a while.
I'm doing good, Vin. I worked a 10-hour day today, got in at 8, left a little bit after 6, but the best news of the day was I got to play with my boss's dog, and I taught him a new trick. I taught him how to catch ball. I felt like a proud father playing catch with his son.
Good thing we are a sports podcast. That was the only sports connection I could think of there. Justin, what about you?
I'm doing good. I'm just really excited to be talking sports with my two best friends again. So I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right. So I don't know if you guys knew this, but today was the NBA All-Star Draft. And,
I did.
In case you weren't aware, because they had a few rules that nobody knew about, I think, beforehand. So LeBron and Giannis were the two captains, since they both were the leading vote getters in their conference. LeBron had the first overall pick for the starters. Giannis had the first bench pick, and they alternated throughout. And then Commissioner Adam Silver added two special additions to the All-Star game with Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki for their swan song. I'm okay with it. I mean, it's the All-Star game. Nothing really matters anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I like adding Dwayne Wade, give him a last hurrah, and also Dirk Nowitzki. I think they more than deserved it. So, you know what? Why not? Just throw him in there. It's great.
Yeah.
If Kobe Bryant can make the All-Star game, so can any other retiring veteran.
Yeah, exactly. One little tidbit that came out of here was LeBron did confirm that he chose Durant first last year after not saying it for the entire year.
The pettiness is real.
Yeah, so the draft happened. I'll go starters first so we can just talk about them because LeBron did a very smart strategy on his part. So LeBron had the first pick. He went Kevin Durant. Giannis then went Steph Curry. LeBron chose Kyrie. Giannis then chose Joel Embiid. Then it went Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, James Harden, and Kemba. So just to sum it up quick, LeBron got Durant, Irving, Kawhi, and Harden. Giannis got Curry, Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Kemba. So now the stories that everybody's going to write tomorrow is LeBron is tampering basically by picking every single person that was ever linked to Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the list, all of 4 out of the 5 first picks for LeBron have either player options or, Anthony Davis asked for a trade, so he doesn't count. but the only person who's still under contract is Harden. So maybe he's using this as a play for like, oh, like come see what it's like to play with me in the All-Star game, which I mean it's stupid anyway. Like to even think like that's gonna like mimic a full 82 game season. But I think like just with the way everything shook out at the trade deadline and just doing everything he can to get Davis, I think he's really trying to make a push here to be like, hey, come to Los Angeles. There's me. We're gonna win. Big historic franchise. Blah blah blah. I don't think it's gonna work personally, but I mean, good try. Good try, LeBron.
Well, my opinion on this matter is that LeBron James really sick and tired of playing with crappy players. You know, let's look at the Lakers right now. There's not another player on that team that maybe Kuzma makes an All-Star game once in his life, maybe a couple times if he's able to step his game up. But aside from that, it's just the LeBron show. And I think LeBron James is basically trying to get every single player he can to anyone to come to the Lakers. They missed out on Paul George last year. They missed out on Anthony Davis at the deadline. Hopefully they'll be able to get him later, but there's no guarantee. So he's just trying to bring in everyone he possibly can. And I kind of have to disagree with the process that this doesn't give an idea of what it's like to play with LeBron James. Because if anything, this is going to highlight it more with his passing ability. Because he's going to be like, look, you were wide open on every single shot you took. Don't you think that'd be fun to do in an actual game?
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely with John there. I think LeBron's being like, hey, this is how I'm going to play when you become a teammate. I like that he's pretty much went into every single one except for Kemba. Basically was saying, hey, if I can't get Durant for say, let me try to get as many people as I can, and at least one or two of these guys have a chance of hitting and staying with them.
Yeah, we know Kawhi alone wants to go to LA. Now, he's talked about how he wants to go to the Clippers, but they certainly seem to be looking to go into rebuild mode now. So if he still is looking for LA, he might now be more considerate of a Lakers possibility.
I mean, it's really interesting to me that he even like selected Kyrie Irving, like given like the past history and Irving saying like, no, I want out because he wanted to run his own team. And I know they reconciled and everything, but like, just imagine like if when it's all said and done after this season, like Kyrie just goes back to Los Angeles and goes and plays with LeBron again. What's the narrative there? Like, what can it possibly
be? He has a chance to win an NBA championship again?
Yeah, he wanted to change the story, basically. I mean, he kind of grew up in Boston a little bit, it feels like, especially this season, because now he's in that LeBron role of, all right, I have to get all these young guys together and try to win a championship, and it's a lot harder than it seemed to be for when Kyrie was a rookie.
Now, I also have another question for both of you. Now, let's just say Durant, Irving, and everybody else just decides to become a free agent. Do you think that if this was a play by LeBron to try and recruit, do you think that could blow up in his face? Because Durant and Irving are both linked to the Knicks, and I know they're a dumpster fire. But what if it's just like Kevin Durant and Irving are like, hey, like we should play together somewhere, and then Durant and Irving are like, you know what, fuck it, or oops, sorry, we're gonna go to New York. So, like, do you think that could, like, blow him in his face that way?
I think what's going to help LeBron there is the fact that those two guys, they might play together well in the All-Star game, but I think it's going to be because of LeBron, because I don't think their two play styles mesh as well as they think they're going to. Because you look at Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City, he was playing with a ball-hogging point guard, and he hated it. Kyrie Irving is a ball-hogging point guard.
Yeah. I mean, when you team up everybody together, I mean, you could have the people just, hey, I like playing with this one guy, but not the other. So, I mean, with the LeBron Kyrie, they played together. I think Kyrie knows at this point playing with LeBron for 4 years, or I believe 3 or 4 years, Just this is what he is. I understand how it is, and Kevin Durant basically grown up watching LeBron in the league, so I think they know what he is already. But getting the chance to play on the court with them, I mean, obviously they do this Team USA whenever they do, but just chance to get to play against NBA level action, I think that's the difference.
I agree
Okay.
with you, man. I agree.
Yeah,
all right.
I could see it either way, honestly.
Yeah. So just
At any level of basketball that allows Carmelo Anthony to still shine as a great player is no longer qualifying as real basketball.
I mean, there's a good chance he ends up on the Lakers.
yeah,
There is a good chance he ends up on the Lakers. There's also a good chance he averages 7 points or less a game.
I think both are
is true.
monumentally correct.
All right. So just to go finish with this team, LeBron got Anthony Davis, Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook, who was later traded, LaMarcus Aldridge, Karl Anthony Towns, Bradley Beal, and Dwayne Wade. While Giannis got Chris Middleton, Nikola Jokic, Ben Simmons, who we later traded, Blake Griffin, D'Angelo Russell, Nikola Vucevic, Kyle Lowry, and Dirk Nowitzki.
Justin, I'll let you go first on this.
I mean, Giannis said he was going to try and go for all of the international guys like him, and it worked. I mean, he was able to get Jokic. He got Vujic. He got Nowitzki. So basically, it's becoming the U.S. versus the Europe All-Star game. Which, you know what? I'll take. I think it'll be. I think it's actually going to be a pretty entertaining game overall.
Well, I'd like to point out one foreign player that did stay on LeBron's team, Ben Simmons, the Australian-born, traded for Russell Westbrook. Now, I am a Philadelphia 76ers fan. This may be a bit of a homer move, but considering they were traded for one another, I think this does beg the question, folks, is Ben Simmons better than Russell Westbrook?
I wouldn't go that far yet. I feel like Ben Simmons has the potential to be, but I don't think he is as of right now.
I need you I need to make sure you understand. I'm not serious.
Not
serious. As much as I want
serious take.
I mean, I think it's a conversation that could happen in the future, just not right now.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
it's have that conversation.
It's hard to say that Simmons is better because Westbrook is in his third straight year right now of averaging 10 rebounds, 10 assists. No matter if some of these stuff are padded at this point, I think it's still impressive.
Well, the difference is he's doing this with a jump shot. Imagine how much harder it would be without one.
I don't know if I would say too much on a Westbrook jump shot. One thing I want to add is that my Brooklyn Nets actually got into there finally. D'Angelo Russell, really loving that. And D'Angelo Russell is a potential free agent this year. So that would be a lot of fun. I think this is the most fun we're going to get until NBA offseason with this league.
Oh, and Vin, don't forget your boy Joe Harris getting pulled
Joey
into
Buckets.
the three-point contest.
Oh, don't believe me. I know. We have a bunch of Nets all over. We have some in the Rising Stars game, too.
And the Knicks have just one because he's a
trade. Of a trade.
Yeah.
But any other talk you guys want to do on this All-Star? The All-Star game, I believe, is next Sunday, if I remember off the top of my head, they said.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one thing, and it's just criticism for next time. I mean, I know it was like pre-recorded at 9 a.m. this morning, and it was done like a week before. You should do it during All-Star weekend. And, like, actually televise it. Have all the guys sitting there, come up, get a jersey, make it, like, a fun little thing.
So do it basically like a schoolyard.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you're telling them
and
where you wanted their face.
Who
was picked last.
Past couple years.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we didn't really touch on is Giannis is basically doing 2001 NBA versus 2019 NBA. With a bunch of big men and not a lot of shooters when Team LeBron is basically the opposite.
I mean, the one thing Giannis has is Steph Curry, who can take every single three for the team if he chose to.
Oh, that is true.
But one thing I want to mention is Klay Thompson on Team LeBron. If Klay becomes a free agent, could you see him going to the Lakers?
Yeah, I'll jump in first. I think he could. His father obviously played for the Lakers a while back. And also, I mean, think about a guy catch and shoot three. This guy, the last month, I believe, had 40 plus points and 4 dribbles. Ultimate catch and shoot guy. And LeBron's court vision and getting people open. I think that would be a very interesting duo together.
Thank you, Vin. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. I agree with you on every single point. And I feel the people that are telling the Lakers that they only need Anthony Davis are idiots, and that Klay Thompson is a much better fit.
Justin, do you want to jump in there quick?
I mean, I completely agree with John on that. I mean, Anthony Davis helps, but you still need another guy to dribble the ball up for LeBron. You need a guy for LeBron to pass to. I mean, I would much rather have Klay and Anthony Davis, or even just Klay compared to having LeBron and Davis.
Klay and having somewhat of a team around you versus
exactly
Anthony Davis and nobody.
Exactly. That's honestly what it comes to. And every single time I'm going to pick the Klay Thompson because he at least gives you a chance to space out the floor, because you know exactly what Davis is doing. He's standing in the post waiting for a basket.
Exactly. And that's without even mentioning the fact that if you would steal Klay Thompson, that's taking him away from the Warriors versus taking Anthony Davis away from a Pelicans team that's like, what, a 12 seed?
If that.
Yeah, I believe they're 13th right now.
There you go.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
Yeah, I know because I looked at betting that the Timberwolves are 12th right now. That's the only reason why I know that.
That's bad.
But
I think we do need to give love quickly, Vin, since we are talking about the NBA standings, to the official team of the Long Islander podcast, the Sacramento Kings.
We may not be consistent so far, but they are.
That's exactly right. And they deserve to be mentioned.
Yeah, so let's jump from basketball quick to baseball, which I don't know if John got a while to see this, but I think it was yesterday. Jeff Passan, I never know how to pronounce his name.
Jeff Passan.
Passan, okay. I just always pronounce it wrong until I heard it. He came out with some rule changes that were being offered. 3 batter minimum for pitchers, dropping the 40-man in September to 28 with 12 pitchers. Any rule changes that caught your eye?
Well, I think the one that caught my eye, because, I didn't see many of these, but the one that did catch my eye was that they potentially, for the briefest of moments, talked about bringing designated hitters to the National League. And as someone who is a Philadelphia Phillies fan, which is a National League team, and has had to watch pitchers bat every game, daily, up to 3 times, dear Lord, is it painful, and I hope you never have to go through that.
Yeah, me and Justin had a conversation earlier today, actually, on Twitter, that basically I said this has to if this is happening, if they announce it this year, they can't import this rule basically until 2021. You got to give the National League some time to at least look for a DH. You can't say, oh, we're dropping a rule, it's starting in 3 weeks when spring training starts.
See, personally, I'd be fine with that because I think the Phillies could pull it off.
Well, yes, the Phillies can, but there's also teams that have 8 batters and prepared their whole offseason. Even though there's a lot of people still remaining, they plan their offseason not thinking we need an extra batter in our lineup.
Listen, I don't care what team you are. If you do not think that you can replace any position player that you have with Marwin Gonzalez and move your position player into DH, you're an idiot.
I actually quite agree with that statement. But
I need you guys to keep talking quick. I'm searching up a stat, and I want to see if I can find it.
All right, but I guess I'll get my take on these rule changes. I know that they're gonna do a study on thinking about lowering the mound, seeing what that's gonna do. I mean, I still have to look into that. That doesn't make sense to me. Leave the mound how it is. It's working just fine. With the DH, my high school research paper in my senior year for English was actually on why the DH should be universal, and I stick by what I said in the spring of 2015. Right now in the winter of 2019, and I stick with that. DH needs to be everywhere. I mean, Evan Gattis doesn't have a job yet, so if they somehow pull this rule out this year, then obviously Evan Gattis is going to make a crap ton of money because every team is going to want to sign him.
Well, as someone who doesn't want to ever see Andrew Knapp behind the plate again, I'll take him.
Well, I
Justin,
mean,
Andrew Knapp is the worst thing that has ever happened to the catching of a baseball.
I mean, well,
and
now
that's saying something.
I mean, now we can transition.
Well, wait. I think I
Vin
found
has
what
some
I'm
thoughts.
looking for.
Let Vin give his thoughts.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a little rude. So I'm scrolling through the best thing I could find, which wasn't exactly what I was looking for, of pitchers batting in 2018.
Oh, God.
And I couldn't find exactly their full stats, so you're going to have to bear with me with that. But there were 164 pitchers last year that got one hit. And, I mean, there's games every single day with interleague play, so there's at least a pitcher hitting in at least one game every day for 162 games. Then you got 15 games at least, well, at most. Basically, you could put in Tyler Wade, and he will have a better chance of getting a hit.
And that's saying a lot because I know Vin is like a Tyler Wade apologist, but as a Yankee fan, I would not hate to have him shipped off for more soda in the vending machines in the clubhouse. I think that's where he belongs, especially now with the rest of the Yankees acquisitions, but that's for another podcast.
I will come out on record right now and say I have more belief in Tom Rosenfeld and Vin Pensavene to hit a ball than I do in a pitcher.
I have versed Major League pitching, so I understand why you have belief in me.
You faced Marcus Stroman in high school. Relax.
It's Major League pitching.
Listen, Justin, that's more experience than many American League pitchers had last year in the batter's box.
Yeah, you know what?
I saw as many pitches, too. I had 3 straight strikes.
Exactly.
Didn't you say his curveball made your knees buckle and you fell?
They did buckle. I did fall. It was a swing, and I did think a fastball, so it was very awful to watch. I'm glad there's no tape on it. If Stroman did ever see or remember that at bat, I mean, I had to say it has to be top 5 funniest things to see on a mound for him.
Yes, so credit Marcus Stroman, the only pitcher to ever strike out a podcast host.
Only Major League pitcher to ever strike me out. So.
Yeah, exactly, Vin. Give him the credit.
We'll ship him an award.
Justin and I have never been struck out by Major League pitching. That's all I have to say on the matter.
Yeah. So just a quick thing. I know we don't know much about him because we are in our early 20s. Frank Robinson passed away today. I believe he was 83, if I remember off the top of my head. First black manager, and also won the MVP in both leagues. So I thought at least we should give him a little bit of a shout out.
He certainly deserves one. He certainly does. I was not even a baseball fan 5 years ago, so I don't know much about the man, but I know he deserves credit. That's what I have to say on the matter. I'll turn it over to Justin.
Do you guys know how he got started as the manager for the Orioles?
I do, but that's only because I'm a nerd.
So Cal Ripken Sr. was the manager, and they went 0-6. So management decided to replace him with Frank Robinson, and they then went on to lose the next 15 games in a row. They started off the season 0-21. But then they were able to bounce back the year after that with more experience. So, I mean, I just think that's a really cool stat. I mean, it's infamous, but it's cool. It's pretty cool. Anyway.
Also, he had the 10th. He's 10th in all-time home runs and won the Triple Crown. So he's a lot better than I was at the plate.
Yeah, he's a hell of a baseball player.
Still a far better player and coach than Tyronn Lue ever was.
That was mean.
But deserved.
I cannot say you're wrong. One last baseball thing I wanted to talk about. I kind of touched upon it when we were talking about the NL. But I don't know if you guys know this, but we have a few free agents in MLB still.
You don't say them.
I believe one's name is
Marwin Gonzalez, yes.
Bryce, I think. Bryce Harper, ring a bell?
Oh, wait, you mean Bryce Machado? Yeah, I've heard
of the cover athlete for MLB The Show this year.
Yeah, the guy with the really tight pants.
Oh, yeah. So Bryce Harper and Manny Machado are pretty much the headliners of MLB Free Agency still. And that started about the end of October. So circle around 4 months and still no contract, which really ruins MLB The Show because they still haven't got a cover. That's probably the biggest loser in this.
Well, two things to say. One, will this be the first time a video game gets to own something before a sports writer?
They did hint at that when they dropped their trailer. They said, Philly fans, we have some news coming. And then they dropped the Bartolo Colon trailer, which was pretty funny.
That's amazing.
But
that's number one. And number two is how – oh, wait, no. Sorry, there were three. But we're going to highlight number two. I blame all of this on JD Martinez.
I mean, you see, I don't blame it on JD Martinez. I blame it on the teams that aren't coming up with great offers. Because if you remember correctly, the one offer that was reported for Machado was 7 years, $175 million. I mean, granted, that's still a crap load of money, but that is nowhere near his market value. And I don't even know what the offers for Bryce Harper are. So,
well, they're a lot less than what he thought he was going to get. That's for sure.
But that's across the league, which is weird because usually by now some team would have signed both of them to 10-year, $300 million contracts, which is what everyone thought their market value was going to be coming into free agency.
Yeah, John, what happened to your team, the Phillies? They said they were sending silly money, stupid money, whatever they said, and they haven't spent much. So I blame the Phillies for not letting this happen.
I think they're going to.
I think they're trying.
It's just the fact that no one is signing.
At the exact same time, if the Philadelphia Phillies don't want to sign either of these players, I'm fine with it because that means we have our eyes on a much bigger, much brighter, much more talented fish. And all of you baseball fans should know by now that fish is the one and only Mike Trout. That's not a fisherman. That's a player. I'm looking for a fish.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know what a fowler is, but it doesn't sound delicious.
I mean, even if they are looking ahead to Mike Trout, they're still going to have the space because Andrew McCutchen and Odubel Herrera are there right now. You're still looking for that next outfielder, which is going to be Bryce Harper, and you don't know if Odubel Herrera is still even going to be on the team if Harper does end up signing.
And, I mean, not to just jump in right here, but you don't even know. Mike Trout's seeing this right now. You don't know if he's going to say, you know what, I'll just sign in L.A. because I know they're going to give me some money.
Oh, of course.
And
That's
you
all
think he wants to?
possibility.
You think he wants to spend 2 weeks before spring training games start, wondering where he's gonna have a job?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not. No.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, just to go with Justin was saying, these guys were expected to break records of contracts, and I mean, obviously, a lot of people have been talking about a strike happening eventually in MLB because of this. But you're telling players, wait through the arbitration till you're a free agent, and then you're gonna make your money. Now the teams are saying we could just pay for more arbitration players, and I mean these guys are 26 years old. You should, I mean, if not a 10-year deal, which I understand a lot of 10-year deals always go bad at the end, but those are for 31, 32-year-old players. You're getting a 26-year-old about to hit their prime baseball players, and no team is willing to jump in. I mean, can you scream collusion at this point? Just we want to knock down what players are making, so Mike Trout doesn't say, "Oh, Bryce Harper wanted 300 million. I want to get 350 and just have it keep climbing."
Listen, if all Mike Trout wants is $350 million, I'll gladly give it to him because he's worth $1 billion.
I can't argue that.
I mean, like going back to what you mentioned about collusion, I mean, I definitely think it's a possibility, but I just can't seem to wrap my head around all of the owners just saying, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to say, like, we're not going to sign these guys to these massive deals because we need to set a new precedent that this is how the league is going to go. But in essence, like, even some MLB agent went on record saying, if I'm Machado's agent, I'm sending him to Japan for the year.
Oh, I heard that.
And, like, just think about what that could do for the sport. Because, like, whether you love him or you hate him, however you feel about Machado, he's still one of the biggest players in our league. So when Major League Baseball is having a problem already trying to market to a younger generation, like the people who are Manny Machado's age and our age as college kids, and even younger, like, you need to make sure that you can secure all those guys long term and make sure that they're happy. Because if not, it's just going to cause more problems for the sport as a whole. So, I mean, I guess we'll see how it goes. But it doesn't, I mean, they should sign soon because pitchers and catchers report in a week from now with position players not too far behind.
Well, I think it is going to happen shortly. I think Harper was just kind of waiting to see what some of these teams that he was looking at were going to do because the Phillies were all talk for so long. And I think now that they've made this trade for Ray Omuto, that could really help bring him into the fold. Going back to Washington, he's had a standing offer there the whole time. Now apparently he's meeting with the San Francisco Giants. I mean, God knows what he's going to do. I'd be okay with him coming to Philly. I've gone on record and said I do not want Machado. But speaking of him, I think what we really need to talk about is how much that World Series against the Red Sox damaged his reputation and his value.
I mean, yeah, like before the World Series and even the series before that, like the NLCS, I was like, yeah, like I could get behind signing Machado. Like, yeah, especially like knowing that he wanted to come to the Yankees. Like, I always am for that. But then I saw him not perform as well as he should have, and with the dirty plays and like just the Johnny Hustle comments, like it kind of turned me off on it. And I've kind of and like you guys both know, like I was not on the Machado train at all, but I've suddenly like started coming around. Like, you know what? If we can get him super cheap, I don't care. I had a problem paying him all that money if he was going to do that. But if 7 years, $175 million is going to get it done, I just think any team is stupid for not raising that offer by another $25 million and saying come here, take it or leave it.
Yeah, I mean, basically you're bidding against nobody at this point. It feels like. I mean, maybe 5 teams have an offer of that deal, but I mean, if you're a big market team, like as many reports as there has been, like Manny wants to be in the East, he doesn't want to head west, and as many reports as there are, I mean, if you're one of those teams, I mean, like the Yankees that are spending money, the Giants or the Dodgers out west. I mean, if you could snag one of these guys up for pennies on the dollar at this point, like, what are you waiting for now?
Well, yeah. And especially the Dodgers, when you look at the moves that they made, trading away Yasiel Puig.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something that I can't wait for somebody to write a book and tell us the reason why. Or at least the inside of a front office of this offseason.
Yeah, I agree with you there, man.
I mean, I just think I think Machado and Harper are stuck between a rock and a hard place because I think if they really, really wanted to sign, I'm sure they could have signed. But, like, just being a Yankees fan and, like, all of, like, the Yankees reports and everything I've seen, it sounds like both Machado and Harper are both, like, just waiting in the weeds, seeing, like, what team might come out of the woodwork and just surprise them. But, just on that, I think Harper, for whatever reason, I don't understand why he would get closer to market value than Machado would, but that standing offer from the Nationals is like $300 million. So this leads me to believe that maybe the Phillies like completely blew him away with an offer and he's just waiting for other offers to come in.
Well, I think that offer was at the beginning of the offseason. And I mean, the Nationals, when they got Corbin, they added Wilson Ramos, if I believe. No, not Wilson Ramos. Not Ramos.
But that's to the Mets.
Yeah, Ramos went to the Mets.
Kurt Suzuki, sorry.
Yeah.
They've plugged up some holes, and they're not really. I mean, you could spend the big money on one guy, or you could use the money that you have and spread out a lot of positions, like they did, the Yankees did, instead of going after one big guy. And I understand that mindset, but I'm just hoping there's no IMG Academy because I went to one of the practices last year and it was depressing.
How so?
I mean, you're basically in a camp where these guys know they're not playing together, and you're not playing major league talent. You're playing basically college kids and just trying to get some swings and being like, hey, remember me? I could still play baseball.
Jeez.
It just has a depressing feeling about it. And something we didn't include, just as I wrap this up, there's also people waiting for these guys to sign as well. That,
of course,
once they sign, then the flood, we hope at least the flood would break out and everybody else would get signed. Because a lot of people assumed they would be signed, and then people like Logan Forsythe and Josh Harrison, just to name a couple, like they would get signed eventually.
Marwin Gonzalez.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we still have, as I'm looking at his name because I couldn't think of it, Craig Kimbrell and Dallas Keuchel out there too. So it's not.
Yes, the Birdman and the Beard.
It's not just Machado and Harper feeling it. I feel like it's the upper echelon of free agents that MLB is just trying to make a point on.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up baseball, I mentioned it before. I think we need to discuss the Real Muto trade to the Philadelphia Phillies.
All right. Now, you're welcome because I believe you were one of the people that were crying about Stanton and Jeter shipping Stanton to the Yankees. Now you get one of those trades to a lesser degree.
Yeah, but we had to give up our number one overall prospect.
But we gave up our all-star.
Shut up.
But
you gave up nothing.
We gave up Starlin Castro.
Yeah, it's our all-star. But one thing that I read today, I forgot who tweeted it out, and I apologize for not having that up. But the entire 2017 opening day Miami Marlins lineup is all off for the team.
Well, it sounds like they want to get rid of anyone who has a trace of what actually happened to Jose Fernandez. Conspiracy?
Wow.
I think so.
That is a huge conspiracy. You tell us we can't use curse words, and you're here saying that the murder was like planned or something.
Hey, as long as Derek Phillips has a jersey hanging in his closet for a team that he has no relation to, aside from Derek Jeter being the president of baseball operations, there needs to be an investigation on the story that I think we all know is here.
Quick question about Eric Ashley. I should totally ask this off the air. Did he ever get that?
Listen, statistician.
Did he ever get the Machado jersey for when he won the World Series?
No, because Manny Machado did not win the World Series.
Well, I just assumed he would do it anyway.
Yeah, no, he didn't do it because the Boston Red Sox won the World Series.
Doesn't that feel like ages ago at this point? I feel like that was like years ago.
Yeah, I'm not even concerned with that now. It's just like, listen, it happened. Let's move on.
I've been here
Pitchers and catchers
living in Boston for almost a month now, and it's great to see the faces of these fans. It's been a whole 3 months since they last won a championship. I could tell they were really hurting for one.
Did you go to the Patriots parade?
I did not. I had to work.
Man,
shame. I know. I didn't get to see the guys fighting over who was at credit for all their championships, Brady or Belichick.
Oh, well, it's Belichick, but that's
glad we can agree on that.
Neither here or there. I know, John, you wanted to talk quickly about your favorite NBA players, Wayne Baldwin and Nicky Stauskas.
Yes, the trade of the century, the trade of the year, Nick Stauskas and Wade Baldwin being passed around the league. Just to recap, I'm not even going to do just like the teams that Nick Stauskas and Wade Baldwin got traded on this year. I'm going to talk about the teams that Nick Stauskas has been traded around or signed with throughout his NBA career. So he originally started with the Sacramento Kings, where he was being called a better shooter than Curry with more height than Klay Thompson. So
Yikes.
That's the ceiling that we were projecting for this young man when he was first drafted in the, I believe, 8th overall in the NBA draft. He, quickly flamed out and was traded to the Philadelphia 76ers, where he had some moderate success with other white undersized guard TJ McConnell. Then he found his real stardom with the Brooklyn Nets, which being Vin's team, I felt we had to mention. Before he then went to Portland, where he had essentially one game of success in his first appearance with the team. Now is where it gets interesting. In the past week alone, he was traded from the Portland Trail Blazers, the Cleveland Cavaliers, to the Houston Rockets, to the Indiana Pacers, and he was now bought out. They played one game in those days, in which there's a photo of him in the Cleveland Cavaliers jersey. But aside from that, Nick Stauskas and Wade Baldwin have been passed around more than, there's many things I could use here, but none of the ones I can come up with are appropriate. So I think we should just leave it at that.
I did not realize how many teams Nick Stauskas was on.
Oh, he's a legend.
That's insane.
And now he's going to sign somewhere else. So, he's probably going to collect another jersey.
Sorry, I don't know if you wanted me to add anything, but I was just literally on Twitter, and I was reading this Chris Brown versus Offset news that is coming out.
Oh, God.
Me too.
Then we are a sports podcast.
I can't say that I was paying attention. I heard that you mentioned the Nets, so that's good.
That's all that matters.
That's all that mattered to me anyway.
You want me to do a pin or you want to do it?
Well, I wanted before you actually went into the actual trade. This actually went through too. LeBron James was very vocal on Instagram. Harrison Barnes got traded from the Mavericks, and that was during the game. LeBron basically flipped out and said, "How do you do that to him?" Paul Pierce later said that Harrison Barnes knew about the trade and said that he wanted to play. So LeBron got some egg on his face after that. Just thought that was a little interesting.
I think
LeBron is the last person to talk about trading people.
Well, no, he felt that he said he understands the business, but having him play, because he obviously didn't know that Harrison Barnes knew about the talks. And
well, of course he knows about the business. He's been the head coach and general manager of about 10 NBA franchises.
They were literally yelling, LeBron's going to trade you at the free throw line.
My favorite was the JaVale McGee one, saying that he's not good enough.
Yeah, that's funny.
JaVale McGee, legendary player.
Played basically everywhere. And then a trade John actually reminded me happened during this trade deadline because it's been so jam-packed. Kristaps Porzingis, Justin Foley's favorite player and favorite pick of all time, I don't know if you guys noticed, he was traded to the Dallas Mavericks. He went along. It was him, Courtney Lee, and Tim Hardaway for Dennis Smith Jr., Wesley Matthews, 2021 first-round pick, and the 2023 top 10 protected.
Well, I think the very important thing to first mention here is that the good news is they did not trade Justin's actual favorite player, Frank the Tank Ntilikina.
I thought you were going to say
somehow
Enes Kanter.
Worse.
Justin, where does Enes Kanter rank on your favorite Knicks of all time?
He's up there. He's up there with Nate Robinson and David Lee.
I mean, you have to love Enes Kanter, but how low is Frank Ntilikina on your list? Like, is he below Carmelo Anthony at this point?
I don't consider him a professional basketball player.
Wow.
I consider himself someone who was just tall and bought the Knicks workout gear and kind of just blended in, and no one ever questioned it.
Tough to
So
say
what
about
you're
your
saying is
pick.
he's a tall Spike Lee.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. If Spike Lee was taller and he was just wearing Knicks stuff, I would assume he was part of the Knicks.
Wow. I mean, basically by their record, you could kind of say that.
Yeah. They're playing about as well as like 5 Spike Lees. That's about how good the Knicks are right now.
James confused
I could say
generally awful.
They are playing as good as the movie Thunderstruck. If you ever saw that. But yeah, I mean, New York was kind of angry. Kristaps just went in with his brother, said, I don't trust you anymore. And get me out of here. It felt like basically he was saying, I'm breaking up with you before you break up with me. And he went to the all-European Dallas Mavericks.
It's like what Kristaps did was basically he knew he was going to get fired, but he walked into the office, said, I quit right before he was fired. Because I like this trade happened like literally maybe 2 hours after the report came out that he wanted to be traded. So
it was minutes.
Yeah, it was about like an hour at most.
Yeah, like I have to think like they were working on that trade well before.
Oh, of course.
Like well beforehand.
Yeah, and then they found out like one of the trades that was going on, and Kristaps was like, "Yes, that's the one I want. Please trade me now, thanks."
I choose that one. I might not have a no trade clause, but I choose this one.
I would have traded it somewhere else.
I mean, they should have, because honestly, I think this really goes to illustrate that the Dallas Mavericks have really been turning it around, and how brilliant is Mark Cuban?
Oh yeah, no, he is a genius.
How many Cuban cigars do you think Mark Cuban owns?
Too many.
I bet you he owns a
He owns
of Cuba.
He owns Cuba. He's going to add an N.
Exactly. I mean, getting Kristaps Porzingis He's still young. Yes, he's on an injury, but that's going to help when you go to re-sign him in free agency when you actually think about it because, yeah, bud, you were injured last year. We're not going to give you $30 million max contract. They basically just got a better, younger Dirk.
Yeah. I mean, they're talking about an extension, so they don't even have to really worry if they do that about restricted free agents.
Yeah, of course.
And worried about having to match any deal that anybody wants to throw at them.
Yeah, but like when you actually look at this, like you get a taller, better shooting, and better ball handling Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah.
This is an all-around win. The Dallas Mavericks swindled the New York Knicks to trade another one of Justin's favorite players, DeAndre Jordan, to the New York Knicks.
I actually like DeAndre Jordan.
I couldn't remember if you did because I remember going to a Sixers versus Clippers game a couple years back, and you had very strong opinions about basically everyone on the Clippers.
Yeah, no, I hated half of them.
You love JJ.
Love JJ Redick. I'm so happy I'm so happy he got out of that trash bag organization, Clippers, and joined the process.
They were a trash bag.
Yeah, and join the process. By the way, given everything that's happened, is the process dead?
The process is over.
It's over.
In my opinion, it's done. We've concluded the process.
All right. Well, you know what? I think we should segue into the next big trade.
Okay, I had a different segue, but I guess we can do that too.
I'd prefer Vin's segue personally.
I was gonna say, Kristaps was in talks for an Anthony Davis trade.
Oh yeah.
And Anthony Davis lost his favorite teammate, Nikola Mirotic.
Yes, going from one tall white man that can shoot three-pointers to another. Nikola Mirotic now joins other big men that shoot three-pointers that are also white, Ersan Ilyasova and Brook Lopez.
Mirotic went. I totally wrote this wrong in my notes. But he went to the Bucks for Jason Smith and Stanley Johnson. So basically, I think Mirotic is going to be nice on Milwaukee. Milwaukee felt they needed to make a move. They're still first in the East, I believe, if I know how NBA standings work.
I believe you're correct.
Okay. That was a total off the top of the head. So good job, Nate. And getting Jason Smith and Stanley Johnson for Mirotic, I think he's going to thrive in Milwaukee because he's a good three-point shooter.
Oh, he is. He's very underrated.
You're pairing him with Giannis and Chris Middleton. I think this team has a chance to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Oh, I completely agree. And I don't think there's a team more fitting for Milwaukee than Brook Lopez, Ersan Ilyasova, and now Nikola Mirotic.
They can make a very good rap album.
Oh, God.
Justin, any thoughts on the trade? Or
analyst? I mean, you guys kind of really touched on everything. Mirotic really does help spread the floor for them. It gives them an added piece. Yeah, I'm ready to move on.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to our fourth white big man that can stretch the floor, Marc Gasol, getting traded to the Toronto Raptors.
All right, so the actual deal was Marc Gasol for Jonas Valanciunas, DeLon Wright, CJ Miles, and the 2024 second-round pick. Justin had some slander before we actually recorded on Marc Gasol.
Yes, I did. Justin has some very strong feelings about this, and I don't want to interrupt that, but, I just want to point out that Vin and I do not endorse the comments that follow this statement. Justin, it's now your time.
Okay. I realize I might have come off a little strong before we recorded.
No, we want the full thing. We want all of your passion.
The people have not heard it. and the people need to hear your slander.
Okay, so basically what I said was the Grizzlies got a king's ransom for Marc Gasol, who is about 78 years old and needs an oxygen tank to get up and down the court. I get that he's still a very good player for his age, but how much longer are you planning on getting him that you had to give up that much for him? I know Wright is like I think Vin said he was like their third string or like their third point guard, so that's not really a big loss. But still, like that was, I just felt like it was a lot. But that's just me. I don't hate Marc Gasol the player. I just hate that like that's what the trade was for him.
Confirmed that Justin thinks that Pau Gasol is better.
Well,
1,000%.
I'd also like to point out that Justin is trying to tone this down because a few months ago his roommate was doing an NBA fantasy draft and considered taking Marc Gasol, and Justin had the biggest freak out I've ever seen about how Marc Gasol is old and washed, and then that night posted a triple-double.
Justin, just to give you a little bit of stats on Marc Gasol, he is not He's not 78. He is actually 34.
Might as well be.
He is averaging more points, rebounds, and assists than he is in his career numbers this season. And
because he has to carry the team.
He has Conley. I don't want to hear that. And he is posting a 17.2 PER, which is a little bit above.
What you're saying, Vin, is that this was a great move by the Raptors, and that Marc Gasol is a fantastic player who carried the Lakers to a couple championships.
No, I think it's a good trade for Toronto to do. I think he's a good player that fits their system. I just cannot believe that they gave up those three guys plus the 2024 second round pick doesn't mean anything. But like Jonas, and CJ Miles, I mean
CJ Miles was just a player that they got in a deal that they made with the Indiana Pacers a couple of years back.
Yeah, but still, he was still a decent player. I thought, if they had just ended it at, my big thing was Jonas. I think Jonas is good enough to warrant not getting traded for Marc Gasol. But I guess they're going for it. I feel like Toronto's just.
This is their year. They have to convince Kawhi that they're contenders.
And then they also have Lowry. I believe his contract ends next year. It's either this year or next year.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about a player being 78 years old, that's Kyle Lowry.
I think that's more of John Wall at this point.
Big yikes.
Yeah.
# Life Alert sponsorship.
I'm really surprised John Wall hasn't broken a thumb scrolling through Twitter.
Well, he's getting close. How many people get injured at their house? I feel like there's more than we know. And I feel like that was a total cover-up.
Have you seen a Life Alert commercial?
I feel like it's a cover-up.
That happened to Jabba Chamberlain. Wasn't Jabba Chamberlain the old, the ex-Yankees pitcher? He was, on the trampoline with his son and, his bone came out of his ankle.
Yeah. So, from one broken down player to, I could say right now the biggest bust since Bargnani in the first slot. John's favorite 76er of all time, Markelle Fultz, was traded to Orlando for Jonathan Simmons, the best of Cleveland, Houston's, and Orlando's 2019 second round pick and a 2020 protected Oklahoma City first round pick. John, I'll let you say your goodbyes to Markelle.
In the arms of an angel, carry. Sorry. Listen, when we first made the trade to get Markelle Fultz, I was ecstatic. I was excited. I was at the Relay for Life where we were celebrating people beating cancer, and I started jumping up and down because the 76ers made a trade for the number 1 overall pick.
You sure you really want to put that out on the airwaves?
Yes.
Okay.
At that time, we thought we were trading Jahlil Okafor away to get that number 1 overall pick. Sadly, we were not. So I was slightly dismayed. We were still getting the number 1 overall pick. So I was excited because apparently this Markelle Fultz kid is supposed to be the greatest thing to happen in the NBA since Kyrie Irving. But he turned out to be an awful person who has horrible Twitter game because his tweets are all about motivation, and he's tweeting about, like, gonna come back stronger than ever. But to come back stronger than ever, you need to show up to the facility and walk on the court, not cower in fear and blame some trainer for messing up your jump shot when it's all in your head. That's all I have to say on this matter. I'm glad he's gone, and I'm glad we traded him for someone who has a better name.
All right. I guess I'll go. Yeah, so like let's just talk about his stats before we get into anything else. In 33 games over the past 2 seasons, he averaged 7.7 points, 3.4 rebounds, 3.4 assists, and 41.4% shooting from the floor. So, I mean, as Vin said, like one of the biggest busts ever, besides maybe Kwame Brown.
I mean, I don't think he was that bad.
He was, yeah.
I still say he's less of a bust than Jahlil Okafor.
Oh, yeah, no, he's...
Okafor played for the Nets, so I cannot agree with that.
So did Nick Stauskas. Shut up.
But, like, talking about the trade, I mean, they got Jonathan Simmons, who's really going to help their defense on the outside as one of the coming off the bench, which the Sixers have needed. So it really helps them out. They needed more depth so that way their starters can actually get some rest and not have to play like 38 minutes a game in order to try and secure a win, because you've just seen it too many times this season where the starters come in, they give you a big lead, and the backups just completely eviscerate that. So I think Jonathan Simmons is really going to help them on the outside perimeter. And, I mean, you can never have too many picks, especially first rounders, so why not?
Exactly. And to really put this in perspective, I mentioned how I was at a Relay for Life. I walked 25 miles in that relay, and that's more time spent on anything than Markelle Fultz has spent on a basketball court in the past 2 years. That's all I have to say on the matter.
I was letting you actually get this transition because you've been saying you want to transition.
Well, I didn't know if you had to say anything.
No, I don't have anything else.
My least favorite Sixers been, but transitioning now to 2 of my already becoming all-time favorite Philadelphia 76ers,
Mike Scott,
Tobias Harris, and Boban Marjanovic.
Yeah, so the official deal is headliner Mike Scott with Tobias Harris and Boban Marjanovic traded to Philly for Landry Shamet. I don't know if that's how you actually pronounce it.
Rest in peace.
Wilson Chandler, who I always have choice words about. Mike Muscala, a 2020 first-round pick. Miami's 2021 first-round pick. And 2021, 2023 second-rounders from Philly.
Now, I've said it that I have a lot to say on this matter. But before we go into any actual analysis about the play, about the players, we want to bring up the fact that Tobias Harris is officially endorsed by this podcast as he is a true Long Islander.
How's it going, Jimmy?
How's it going, Jimmy?
So, Tobias Harris, I think this was a fantastic addition for the Sixers. I have loved watching him play since he was, like, on the Magic. because back when I used to do my DraftKings days, I would always pick him because he had such good value, because he was so low, like he had such a low cost to add him to your team. But every night he'd come out and he'd hit nothing but 3-pointers and grab rebounds. He's a fantastic shooter. He's 8th in the league in 3-point percentage. He has a above 500 pure shooting percentage, which is better than every single player on the Sixers pretty much. And while I'm very sad to see Landry Shamet go, as he did look like the closest thing we were going to get to the next J.J. Redick, I could not be more excited about the fact that we actually have a player who is 7'3" and can dunk without jumping.
So just to fill some dead air that we just had there. So I've been very vocal about not being a fan of what the Sixers got. I'd love Tobias Harris, but they got 3 guys on contract years, gave up their future. I mean, if
Whoa. This was not giving up our future. The Jimmy Butler deal was giving up the future.
Well, I'm talking about in tandem, giving up your future.
Well, I'm not a fan of the Jimmy Butler deal. I'm a fan of this deal.
My DM to Josh Rodriguez, who hosts the Dime podcast, which is a very fun listen if you haven't checked it out. I wrote to him, I'm hoping you're as upset with Philly as I am with this trade. Tobias and Jimmy are getting offered max contracts somewhere else, and the 2021 pick from Miami is very coveted. I think it's amazing if they find a way to keep these guys, but with the cap, they're not doing this with 3 rentals. So I don't think there's any chance this team is staying together, and I have a feeling this is the newest Brooklyn Nets trade.
I don't think it's going to be that bad. I like this trade. As I've said, I really like Tobias Harris, and he's only 27, which I think is important to mention, which is pretty young, especially considering he was not an everyday player at the beginning of his career. I do not like the Jimmy Butler trade. Looking back at it, I don't like what we gave up, because we gave up players. We gave up good players. We gave up Dario and we gave up Robert Covington, who are both fantastic. I mean, they're not like you know what I mean. Yeah. I thought they were fantastic because they were on my team. But this trade, where we gave up Mike Muscala and Wilson Chandler, who I thought were completely useless to our organization, I have no complaints. I mean, I know we traded the Miami pick, which is highly coveted, but a draft pick is a draft pick until it turns into a superstar. Because that draft pick could be the next Kwame Brown. It could be the next Markelle Fultz. It could be the next Jahlil Okafor. So you really don't know what that draft pick is going to be. And with the fact that we were able to recoup a first-round pick with our trade with the Mavericks today, I don't think it's that bad.
I mean, I personally, just as an outsider looking in, because I'm not a Sixers fan and I'm not even that big into basketball, but just knowing that the player that Tobias Harris is, this shows that, because before the trade, the East was wide open. So it just shows that the Sixers are this is our year. Even ESPN, which I don't always agree with, was comparing the Sixers' new starting lineup with Tobias Harris in there, and compared it to the Warriors starting 5, and all 5 players, I think it said all 5 players average 17 or more points a game.
Yeah.
Which I think, you can never have too much offense. Usually it's the best offense is a great defense, but in basketball, I think it's the best defense is the best offense. But, just getting a player, even Boban, because like I said earlier with the Fultz trade, you're getting pieces that are going to back you up. So that way when the starters go in and do their thing, like we've seen them do all season, the backups can safely secure the game, and you're also not putting as much wear on your guys as you before the playoffs. You're giving them more time to rest. I think it's just a good trade all around, and I really like what John said. They're just draft picks until they turn into something. So, I mean, you take the chance now because you really think that you can. And personally, I mean, Elton Brand has shown that, like, yeah, he could probably win Executive of the Year. So I have faith in him going forward that he could try and work out a deal to get both Butler and Harris to stay. But I mean, like I said, that's just an outsider looking in. I'm just trying to see it from a sports fan perspective and not a Sixers fan. But that's just my take on it.
Yeah, I think it's very hard, only because if say they sign Tobias, who's basically going to get max money this year, and they sign Jimmy Butler back, that team is the most expensive team in NBA history. And I'm going to bet the under on them being the most expensive team in NBA history before I would bet the over. And I say this year, I know a lot of people are now like, oh, these guys are favorites to win they could possibly beat Golden State now, which I don't think so. I think chemistry plays a factor into NBA more than people want to admit. I mean, if you look at the standings now, I believe they're 5th, right, in the East?
Yeah, I think so. But it's all very bunched up.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's kind of hard to say that. I mean, they're not winning in their division, but they had to make some moves. I mean, they can't be the 5th seed going into the playoffs. They have to be a top 4 at minimum.
And I think they will be. I don't think the Pacers are going to be able to maintain this without Vic Oladipo.
Well, I believe, if I'm not wrong, that if the Celtics stay ahead of them, they can't get it due to, like, the division winners have to be top 4.
Yeah. Wait, there's only 3 divisions.
Yeah, and then Boston and Toronto are ahead of them.
Well, I think it's going to be in Milwaukee, Toronto. You said top 4, so Toronto, Milwaukee, and Boston. That gives us a chance at 4.
Well, Indiana would still have to be up there, is what I'm saying.
Well, I think Indiana's going to fall. So.
But then the divisions.
Well, I think Philly, honestly, with this new lineup, I know chemistry is a concern, but I think their games all fit well together. Because when you look at what we had, like I said, Butler, I'm still not really a fan of that trade. I think I'd rather have Covington and Sarge back. But Tobias Harris is a perfect fit in our lineup now, because now Ben Simmons has J.J. Redick, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid, who all can score. They all can get their own shot, which I think is really important to look at. Because when you were looking at our team before, we had Landry Shamet, who's coming to his own. And don't get me wrong, I love him. He was about to hit his 100th three-pointer of the season when he got that foul call the other night. But, oh well. Robert Covington, who was one of the streakiest players in the entire league. Dario Saric, who was no longer playing up to his level of success that he previously was. Wilson Chandler, who's been a bust of a contract. Marco Fultz, who wasn't even on the court for us. And Mike Muscala, who just got traded to the Lakers because for some reason LeBron needed to make some trade.
Yeah, I just want to mention that it was an old rule. In 2015, they decided to scrap division winners getting a top 4 seed automatically.
There we go. Perfect.
So it's just based off of the record. So in your way, you would be right.
See, we can slide right into a nicer seed.
Just better hope they don't get 4th in the division.
Well, I got some faith. I gotta have faith, man. I gotta have faith.
Yeah, just like Nikki's boat. Do you guys have anything else before we end it?
Well, let me check on my list here. I did just bring up how I do want to talk a little bit more about the fact that LeBron was so desperate to make a trade that they did trade for Muscala, because I think that trade was idiotic. They traded to get Mike Muscala, giving away Zubac, who they didn't want to give away for Anthony Davis, which I'm really questioning why you wouldn't want to give him away for a far better player.
I mean, I just want to say, like, I'm happy we're doing this again. I actually really have fun doing this, and I hope anyone that decides to listen to this actually enjoys listening to us. And if you don't, well, don't listen to us again. We don't like you.
If you don't, then change your mind. So.
Yeah, exactly. So get with it. And yeah, can't wait to keep doing these.
Yes.
Vin?
So you guys are going to be, not us, but the people listening will actually be hearing a song if I know how to do this. So if I do, then enjoy the song. If not, then I guess you could just make fun of me.
Well, if not, if you can't get it, then we'll just scrap this ending out of the video.
No, I'm keeping this right in the video.
Oh, we got to keep this. That has been the Long Islander podcast and our long-awaited return. Maybe not awaited by you, but definitely awaited by us. Like Justin said, we're really glad to be able to get back together and do this again, and we hope you all enjoy. This has been the Long Islander podcast. We'll have our social media in the description below. Hopefully you'll give us a follow after giving us a listen. And that is our show.